right, this is going to be a long one. Well, let's go. AI tools. They have triggered anything from standing ovations to harsh criticism. For example, some claim we're watching the death of artistry unfold right before our eyes, which is quite poetic, to be honest. Others have embraced the AI tools as a partner in crimes, for example, writing grant proposals, or checking the weather outside, or, well, cheating on art competitions. Still, regardless if you're for or against AI tools, it doesn't really matter. These tools are here to stay and will be expanding beyond our imagination. Now imagine a world where every question is answered immediately. Ask yourself, at what cost to your thinking, knowledge, and reality? Let's just dive into this AI rabbit hole and explore how it affects us and our relationship with these tools. Oh yes, and by the way, this story will turn dark at first, but don't worry, there will be some helping light at the end of this tunnel. By the end, I'll propose a couple of approaches you can use to activate your thinking and seek knowledge purposefully. So don't worry, I won't leave you in despair. Let's talk about generative AI, which refers to artificial intelligence models that generate new content based on existing data, like books, articles, internet content, music, sounds, anything. Developers of generative AI systems like DALL-E or ChatGPT, they have trained their systems with this existing data in order to create responses that coordinate with the type of prompts, queries, or requests that you place upon them. And of course, the output of these systems are not direct copies of their source. Instead, they create content based on the style, the themes, the genres. It's pretty brilliant, to be honest. We're sitting on a monstrous number of learning parameters, which is the definition for the pieces of information of this system. And we can use these learning parameters to create and learn new stuff. So we see now how these generative AI tools have leveled the playing field, giving us instant answers to almost any question. And apart from this increased accessibility, these tools can create answers or responses to your queries based on your expertise levels. So for example, if you want to know more about astrophysics, you can ask ChatGPT to explain it at a level of a 10-year-old. Or you can dumb it down further if you didn't understand that level. You'll get human-like responses that are easy for you to digest. Now, with the risk of sounding too sensationalistic or overdramatic, I'm going to say this. Behind this glooming sound of music dancing in the Alps kind of dream world hides a trap that may ultimately consume your thinking and knowledge. We need to be aware of these pitfalls, so let's check them out one by one. We occasionally need opposing views or perspectives to be able to develop our thinking and communication. For example, let's look at switch-side debating, a technique competitive debaters use for practice. In short, the debaters debate both sides of an argument to practice their thinking and debating skills. Now imagine if they didn't have opposing viewpoints or perspectives. Well, what do you think would happen to their debating abilities? You start realizing the fundamental problem of AI once you understand that it's not made of magic and miracles. Humans have trained them to recognize patterns in their training data, and these systems offer responses based on these patterns. And since generative AI lacks consciousness, emotions, free will, abstract thinking, they lack intrinsic critical thinking and do not understand the meaning behind the patterns they recognize and provide. And as a result, they ultimately answer to their one and true master, the humans that designed and trained them. Then what does that mean to our thinking, communication, and knowledge seeking? Well, the content that this AI system will provide you will only be as good as their source or as the data they learned from, which are humans with biases, emotions, and ideologies. This data may well self-enforce in a positive feedback loop and then eventually homogenize the information landscape with the respective biases and trends. we risk ending up in a AI-generated, self-propagating information bubble. Then we have the issues of AI transparency, your insight into the workings of AI. Have you ever wondered how AI makes its decisions? In my previous video, I discuss the transparency issue with different AI tools. You can check that video out after you finish this one. But in short, AI-generated decision-making resembles a black box. We simply don't understand how these models make decisions after training, such as, for example, what patterns it focuses on, which sources it uses, and how it responds to your prompts or queries. And this lack of transparency also gives you little insight or control over the tools, limiting you from changing parameters according to your needs. For example, you cannot evaluate the biases of each tool if you don't know the sources. So we're just left to accept whatever data comes to us. And then there is plagiarism. Some claim that AI can harm the educational system as it can create plagiarism tools, or as Noam Chomsky would call it, high-tech plagiarism. And the Canadian novelist Stephen March even proposed a timeline for the death of the educational system based on the rising popularity of these AI tools. So whether you trust these prognoses or not, it's fair to say that AI tools may enhance plagiarism at school. Of course, the question is, how much more of a harm can these AI tools pose on the educational system compared with the cheating systems that are already in place? But that's a topic for another time. So does this mean that we should avoid AI to develop and maintain our critical thinking? Not at all. I don't think that's a good idea. I think instead we need to adapt to the advancements and to the development of AI. Here's a couple of ideas how you can use it to your advantage. Use generative AI as a tool, not a replacement. AI tools should never replace active learning, information seeking, or creativity. You should never rely blindly on AI tools. As we've seen, they contain a lot of biases, errors, and mistakes. So you have to be hungry for more. For example, if you're writing a report for work or school, don't simply copy and paste whatever ChatGPT tells you. Instead, use the information that you get from ChatGPT as a starting point and continue researching with that information in mind. Argue with generative AI to stay skeptical. This might seem a little bit odd at first, but to activate your critical thinking, you can go through the responses of these AI tools line by line and search for mistakes or errors. And believe me, you will find them. Once you identify doubtful or unknown information, ask the tool why it chose that information. You start by questioning the tool itself. Then afterwards, you try to solve the question yourself. And lastly, you use other resources, experts, documentary, books, articles, whatever. This type of training can highlight the lack of knowledge or the knowledge that you have, and also make you consider opposing viewpoints. And as embarrassing as this may be, I've had tons of discussions with ChatGPT about delusion factors or writing or philosophy. But be careful, you can easily end up in an endless spiral discussing with ChatGPT and getting nowhere. Learn with generative AI. If used correctly, generative AI can be a great learning tool. For example, use it to generate quizzes or exercises to help you learn a new unknown topic. But again, don't rely exclusively on the content you receive from these AI tools. Use them as a starting point. Play around with different AI tools. Each AI tool differs from the other one, so I recommend you use different AI tools and test which one benefits your purpose the most. You can choose based on biases that they have, the sources of information that they have, clarity, transparency, anything. Just try different ones and see which one benefits you the most. Free up brain space from boring and repetitive tasks. Then you can have AI tools make the boring work for you. For example, if you're a content writer, ask it to outline your work or create abstract or search for mundane information. Delegating this type of boring tasks to AI can free up brain space and time so that you can work on the things that really matter. And lastly, don't forget to have fun with it. Create copies in different styles, jingles to your fantasy radio show, or art to hang up in your apartment. Experiment and expand your imagination. Creativity is also beneficial for critical thinking. Like many things in life, Science and technology are not good or bad by default. Instead, they rely heavily on how we use them. A complete reliance on AI can impair our critical thinking and analytical skills. Of course, the silver lining for content creators is that the ones with the more provocative, original, or creative ideas will thrive in this type of conditions. Their content will likely stick out from the dull and repetitive content landscape and trigger readers to think critically and analytically. Anyway, what do you think? Can we live hand in hand with AI tools without losing our critical thinking skill? Until next time, peace.